Today we have a new challenge to try to craft our way to the top in 7 days to die. Today we spawned a world that had no towns, no traders, and no water. Or at least it seemed no water. I was really worried about that last one because water's kind of important to us. The idea for this challenge is that we are living way off the grid, somewhere where we have to survive ourselves out in the apocalypse with no traders to rely on and no towns to scavenge from. We have only Mother Nature to collect from. In this world, we legitimately had no traders whatsoever and no town spawn whatsoever. There was very few instances where we could scavenge from and only a few points of interest where we could actually explore. Currently in 7 Days to Die, crafting is probably the worst way to actually level up and get good things in this game. It's far more efficient to actually go to traders and far more efficient to just scavenge from towns and hope to get lucky. So we took those two out of the equation and just relied only on crafting. Some scavenging was allowed, but only with what we could find, and again, very few points of interest. When we spawned into this strange world, we spawned in on the one location. There was only one spawn in this entire map, which made it very convenient for us to meet up.
You're right.
Oh, we're pretty close.
What the heck? Me and Johnny spawned together. Hey, Johnny.
Oh, there might only be one spawn point on this world, then.
We were in the exact middle of the map, starting in a forest biome. We spawned near a few points of interest, including a new home. This was going to be our home, at least once we got rid of the previous inhabitants, of course.
Cavemen unite.
Yeah. Oh, that's This was a good start for us, for at least we had walls to protect us. However, we were lacking in food, water, and any sort of other basic resources that you might want in this game. With shelter out of the way, we still had food and water to deal with. Water was far more important than food, and there was no great way of getting water as this world also spawned with almost no lakes in it. The first lake that we actually found was several weeks later, and it was far to the north where there was no way we were going to run to it. It would have actually been more efficient for us to run north, collect snowballs, and then convert them into water, which also wasn't going to happen because that was a very far ways away. We probably would have died from dehydration and hunger without any supplies. Luckily for us, though, one of the nearby houses turned out to have a flooded basement, which we could make water from. So we were able to drink the water there, and luckily enough for us, we were next to a desert, which meant sand was readily available. So we could also create jars, which made it so we could safely boil the water, and this way we weren't going to die from thirst. Next major problem we had was food. I took it upon myself to try out hunting. We found a pipe rifle early on with a couple of bullets. We actually found very few bullets throughout this entire playthrough. Bullets do not tend to spawn in any of the random locations or random bits of stuff that we happen to find. So we found a treasure map early on, which did get us quite a bit of bullets. And I took this, as well as my hunting rifle, to go hunt some rabbits and chickens. Got myself a perk called Huntsman, which allowed me to see rabbits and chickens on the compass so I could more easily hunt them down. This was going okay, but a large portion of our food early on was just scavenged from either trash piles or random birds' nests laying around on the ground. Weeks worth of eggs and large cans of dog food sustained us for days on end. We did manage to find at least enough meat to kind of keep us satiated, though, for the time being. We would need more over time. We also had a few incidents going over the first couple days of this particular challenge, and a couple of deaths also from this, ranging from the local zombie attacks.
Okay, well, I'm gonna die, so watch the floor. There's a lot of zombies down there.
Okay. To wildlife attacks.
Oh, there's a dire wolf.
There one?
Yep. Biting me and I'm out of stamina.
Oh no. We're coming.
We're coming.
Oh.
Oh, died.
To a quick escape back home thanks to a landmine that I found in the wasteland.
How do we get...
A landmine. These events may have crippled our bodies, but they did strengthen our will to survive. We struggled for days on end, having low ammo, low food, and a severe lack of pants. Clothing and armor takes a lot of raw materials and knowledge to make, although there is one way that is a somewhat reliable way to obtain clothes and other goodies, and that is picking through the trash. Boxes, bags, and random bits can be a gold mine of gear. Sometimes. Maybe. Not all the time. It's not always great to actually be rummaging through the trash. Most of the time you get disappointed and just end up finding a bunch of doorknobs or feathers or whatever it might be that doesn't really help you out that much. There was one other major issue that we found early on too in this game. If you would like to progress through crafting, one of the major tools that's required to progress in this game is a wrench. With a wrench, you're able to deconstruct just about everything in this game and get better materials from it. The problem with this though is that you cannot just craft a wrench from the beginning, because a wrench takes steel, steel requires a crucible, and you usually need a wrench in order to get the parts to make a crucible. So in other words, you need steel to make steel, and we have no way of getting steel in the first place. So we only had 2 potential options of getting a wrench. These 2 were either getting extremely lucky and hoping that a zombie drops it. Zombies have a 1 in 100 chance of dropping a loot bag, which may or may not contain anything of actual value. And when I say value, that can range heavily from dropping something like 14 lead trophies to dropping a wrench to dropping bullets for your gun. And our other option would be scavenging. However, the chances of getting wrenches in trash I think are basically 0. And there was very, very few points of interest to actually get a wrench. We eventually found one in a house that was 2 kilometers away from us and hidden underneath a sink, but it took a very long time to get this, so we were still in a very primitive state throughout the very first week of this challenge. Days passed as we searched through piles and piles of garbage, finding very little but disappointment and stacks of doorknobs. With what little we were able to find, we were able to fuel our forge and start building our base a little bit stronger. We started out building defenses. First we had basic wooden structures, then stone structures, stone arrows, which then turned to iron arrows. With all these upgrades, we decided to spread out and try to explore even more areas. We found very little in terms of actual points of interest, mostly just finding piles and piles of garbage throughout the wasteland, the desert, the snow area, and the forest, getting us a little bit more supplies so that we could actually use this for our first horde night. I took it upon myself to hunt a very clueless bear. This thing followed me for the longest time, and we were actually able to kill it. Our first 7th night came, and with it, a blood moon and the waves and waves of undead. We took cover in our large birdcage structure that Rob had constructed over the last few days. As everybody knows, the birdcage is the most defensive siege structure in hopes of slowing down the advancing hordes. We used what little ammunition we had for our weapons and the handful of explosives that we actually found laying around in the trash too. Don't know why people are throwing away explosives, but we had a couple of them. We managed to fight them off, staying safe inside of our structure. We had survived our first blood moon. With it came loot, experience, and the uncertainty of the future. Will we be able to survive this empty world? We'll have to find out in time.